Hey, how's it going, runner? Coach Kyle here, and today you're going to learn about 4 studies, and most importantly, you'll get some tips on what the researchers found out and how you can implement the results into your training for some really cool benefits. And if you don't know, I'm Coach Kyle, and I work primarily with plant-based distance runners all over the world, improving their running and their lives through implementing sustainable training habits, easy to do strength work, dialing in that nutrition, and working on anything else that needs alignment by bringing it all together with great accountability and motivation without being asked where you get your protein from. So if that sounds like your jam, visit kylekranz.com to learn more. So we've got 4 studies to talk about. The first was a small study titled The Effect of Nasal versus Oral Breathing on VO2 Max and Physical Economy, or running economy in recreational runners following an extended period spent using primarily nasal breathing. They had 5 males and 5 females complete a maximum graded exercise protocol and a high-level steady state trial at 85% of the max graded exercise protocol velocity in both nasal and mouth breathing conditions, and the researchers compared the 2 results. The second study is about overtraining, where a paper looked at the links between overtraining and underfueling. So overtraining is a syndrome characterized by an accumulation of training and or non-training, like just general daily stress, resulting in long-term decreases in performance capacity. And it really considered if cases of overtraining may be partially due to underfueling. And this was a curious read for me, as in the past I've reminded people that injuries, overuse, overtraining aren't always due to overdoing something, but often underdoing or under recovery. And this study looked at underfueling in a similar mentality. Third, a curious one with 12 participants, and on 2 different days, these participants drank either a flavored, sweetened, calorie-free drink or the vodka equivalent of 3 to 4 standard drinks, and then the next morning they performed some strength and some endurance tests, and I'll talk about the results in a second. And number 4, the one that I was most excited about, was sent to me from a client of mine because it suggested that how I very often have my runners do their strength training after running may be the way to go. And so I'll talk about kind of why that is, what the researchers found, and how you can implement it into your own, your own weekly training. So before I get on to the results, just if you think this is an interesting topic or a helpful video, give it a thumbs up. That's really cool. And if you have any questions or comments on this, drop a comment below. I love having some discussion with my viewers. So let's start with that nasal breathing study. And the researchers looked at the impact of only breathing through your nose while running. And the researchers found that there was not really a significant difference when it came to time to exhaustion in a graded exercise protocol. No big changes or differences in VO2 max or peak lactate. And the nasal breathers did have a lower VO2 max at steady state. And the authors suggest that this could be due to nasal breathing requiring less metabolic energy production to produce the same external work, and maybe more so it may be more economical. They found a 4% reduction in oxygen consumption consumed at a steady state trial, which is good because that's kind of like just increasing your miles per gallon. Other ways to increase your miles per gallon by that 4% is the authors noted that that 4% improvement is often about the same as if you implement a strength training protocol into your training routine. And I'll talk about how to do that in just a second. Also, you can get a pair of Nike 4%. This is the most expensive way, but maybe the easiest. And I will say that these shoes are pretty comfortable. And so getting a nice pair of shoes, doing some strength work, maybe with some nasal breathing, can all be really easy ways to improve your running economy. And curiously enough, this study was so small, and it took 2.5 years of recruiting and testing to complete, because the researchers, I think in Pueblo, Colorado, simply couldn't find people who met the requirements of 6+ months of exclusive nasal breathing during running. And it was curious because this is often a suggestion I give to a lot of my new runners that come to me for coaching. And when I have a client come to me for coaching, regardless of their history of running, number one, I slow them down. Number two, I get them doing strength work. And a good way to slow yourself down is to breathe through your nose while running. And if you want to kind of implement this, do it on flat or downhill sections during your easy runs. And if you can't run with your mouth closed, that might mean your easy runs aren't as easy as you think. And not having true easy runs is one of the biggest mistakes a runner can make. So worth your consideration, worth your time and your effort on maybe improving the quality of your easy runs. So with the article on overtraining and underfueling, also super important. The authors state that overtraining, female athlete triad, are mainly responses to chronic strength that the body cannot handle and may be due to under recovery or underfueling. And the researchers looked at 21 studies and figured out the energy needed for the participants in these studies. And the majority of the studies found that those who were classified as overtrained often had similar training loads as those who were not classified as overtrained, but they ate fewer calories, as much as 1,000 fewer calories daily. And across all the studies, the researchers found that even a seemingly small 15% decrease in calorie intake could result in some overtraining symptoms. One of the authors was quoted as saying that even small within-day energy deficits of 300 to 400 calories has been associated with clinically meaningful symptom outcomes in cross-sectional study designs. And although a one-off small 300 calorie deficit either within a day or over an entire day is most likely not clinically impactful, when multiplied over months, these seemingly small mismatches in energy can become significant. They can compound. For example, an energy deficit of 300 kcals daily over 1 year is about 100,000 calories in deficit, and that's a ton. This is why with many of my runners that log their diet, I'm not often trying to get them to eat less, but I'm trying to get them to eat more. And one lady in particular recently started logging her diet, increased her calorie intake, and she did note in final surge that her energy did seem to improve while running. So if you want to kind of implement this, maybe once a week, or maybe for a week, once a month, log your diet and kind of compare. MyFitnessPal can compare how much energy you're putting out and how much energy you're taking in. And avoiding being in a chronic calorie deficit will probably just have you feeling better throughout the day and during your training. Now, if you're trying to actually lose weight but continue training well, one thing to consider is intermittent dieting, where you have 2 days, maybe 1-2 days out of the week where you can eat in a calorie surplus, have dessert, have an extra bean burrito for breakfast. And kind of how that works is you might say, okay, Friday and Saturday, I can have a beer, I can have some dessert. So that mentally helps you eat better over the entire course of the week. And those 1 or 2 days where you're in a calorie surplus helps preserve your metabolism and it helps preserve your muscle mass. Now on to a study that looked at vodka and water placebos and the effects of next day strength and time to exhaustion tests. They found that in strength, there was not really a change. So have all the vodka you want, do the strength work in the morning, and you're probably going to be fine. But when it comes to more of endurance, more longer tests, there was a decrease in performance when it came to a time to exhaustion test done the morning after some evening alcohol. And when it comes to beer or alcohol intake, there was a recent literature review and they found a few things that you might find interesting. First off, beer does rehydrate. A beer that has less than 4% alcohol does a better job at rehydrating than a beer that has greater than 4% alcohol. Also, beer that has sodium in it, like that Sam Adams 26.2 beer that they brewed for the Boston Marathon a few years back, I don't know if they're still doing it, that included sodium, does help that rehydration. And the researchers found that in general, a moderate alcohol intake of 1 to 2 beers per day generally has little negative impact on body composition or strength. Now, the review didn't look at endurance, maybe because there wasn't as many studies done on this. But when it comes to my experience, I found that in 2021, I've really drastically lowered my alcohol intake, almost to 1 or 2 beers every 2 or 3 months. And I find that not having alcohol does have me feeling more energized, more mobile in the morning, and I think I might sleep a little better too. Now, I do like having the occasional beer, but when I do, it's more often than not going to be from Athletic Brewing or Hairless Dog, 2 really great non-alcoholic beer options. And finally, the one that I found most interesting looked at, it was a study that suggested cardio before weights can amplify the effects of the strength session due to molecular impacts of combining the two into a single workout called concurrent training. The small study, it's too bad it was so small, of 8 guys, found that 20 minutes of cycling right before an upper body routine primed the muscles for growth and change more than just going right into the strength session. So in this case, it was a lower body routine plus upper body cardio. And this is actually something that I very often do with my own runners, where the day before a hard or a long running workout, they might just do an easy jog followed straight away by an upper body core routine. And the researchers found that the men's muscles were teamed with protein, gene activity, and genetic markers that seem to initiate muscle growth after the cardio plus strength session. Now, Dr. Moberg was quoted as saying that the most fascinating finding of this study is that some biochemical factors evoked by the leg endurance exercise entered the bloodstream and were then able to influence processes in a completely different part of the body. And in a way, it seems that it seems to be beneficial for the training adaptations in the arms. And it was almost like the endurance exercise performed by the legs were being transferred to some degree into the upper body. And if you want to get in on this, you can go to kylecrans.com to find a really great running specific upper body strength routine. That would be a really great addition to your running. And like I said, I often have my runners do an easy jog, maybe with a few strides to kind of prep the legs for the quick running that's going to be done the next day. But do that easy run with some strides and follow that up. Come home, grab a fizzy water from the fridge, and then jump on your yoga mat, get in, I have some weights right back here, and do that upper body routine. So it's not going to leave your legs fatigued, and it's actually, according to this study, that cardio plus strength is going to help out the gains from that strength session anyway. So like I said, if you have any questions or comments, drop them below. I love having some discussion. If you thought this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. And as always, thank you for watching.